gardeners, welcome back to my channel. My name is Trisha, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing all of your guys' reptile enclosures that you guys submitted over Instagram. So if you didn't make it in this video, I will do more in the future. I think I'm just officially going to take submissions on the 12th of every single month on Instagram. So just pay attention to my stories because I only take like a certain amount of the first submissions that I get in, because sometimes I get way too many and the video would end up being way too long. So yeah, I'm really excited to get started. You guys submitted some gorgeous enclosures and I can't wait to take a look at them. So the first setup that we have is from Slither and Coil. It's a 48 by 24 by 24 PVC enclosure from Toad Ranch Reptiles. I thought I'd include a pic of the inhabitant too, which is Nuru, and he is a Rufus beaked snake. They're an East African rear-fanged species, and their venom is not dangerous to humans. It is a gorgeous snake. It's so pretty, and I love how you have like the little rainbows coming in too. It looks so cool. And the whole enclosure just looks so stunning. I absolutely love this. It's such a gorgeous setup. It looks very naturalistic. There's different textures and feels throughout this enclosure. It is just stunning. I'm not familiar with the species or their care. This is actually the first time that I've ever heard of them, so I'm not really worthy of giving any care advice on them because I really have no idea. But looking at this enclosure, I can see that there are definitely hides in there. There's a lot of different forms of enrichment, different textures and feels. Maybe the one thing that I would recommend is, again, I may not even know. I'm not sure if this is a species that enjoys climbing. If it does, it would be a good idea to add different elements that your snake can climb on in this enclosure. But if not, then obviously you have everything exactly how it should be. I'm not familiar with this species at all, so it's really hard for me to come up with recommendations. But this enclosure is so stunning to look at, so thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have Maddie Monette, or Maddie Monet. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, so I'm sorry. This is a beautiful Zen Habitats enclosure for a king snake. Wow, look at how spacious this is. So I think that this is the 4 by 2 by 16 inch enclosure. I can't really tell by the photos, but that is my guess. And it looks so gorgeous. I love that you put like the plants all along the back, the foliage like that. And I've noticed that my snakes like to climb on it when you do stuff like that too, so I'm sure that your snake uses that for enrichment as well. Looks like you have different hides, different heating elements for different variants throughout this enclosure, a big water bowl, a nice deep substrate. This looks fantastic. I'm sure that your snake is very happy. The only thing I would recommend is maybe some driftwood or skinny like stick pieces that your snake could possibly climb through. I think that that would add a little bit of enrichment. And then maybe just top everything off with some leaf litter. Just brings a little bit of a different texture and feel to the setup. But this is absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have cat scales. So it's hard to get a close-up, but this is a 5 by 2 by 2 bioactive enclosure for her baby BCI, which is so stunning. Just look at this snake. It is so gorgeous. I love it. And the setup is stunning as well. It looks like there are some different plants in here and foliage. It looks like they're live plants. And then there's sticks to climb on, different hiding areas. I think that this is fantastic. It looks so stunning. I think that the only thing that I would add to this enclosure, okay, there's a couple things. So because this is just my personal preference, I love naturalistic backgrounds. I think that if you were to try and do something like that on this setup, it would just look so stunning and really bring everything together and just look like a little jungle in there. But if not, sometimes it's hard to do that on enclosures like this that are already built. You could just decorate the background, maybe put up some cork pieces or plants all along the back, just that way it fills it up towards the top. I think that that would look so good. And then maybe my other recommendation is always just leaf litter. I think that that's just like the final touch on any enclosure, and it would be great for your bioactive substrate as well. So thank you so much for sharing this beautiful setup. Next, we have Second City Serpents. This is a ball python tank, and he said this is my ball python tank just before he gets upgraded to a 4-footer. So I'm not sure what size this enclosure currently is, but it looks very, very spacious and very stunning. Lots of different textures and feels, different foliage. It looks fantastic. I really love that piece of wood that you have in the center. I'm sure that that's perfect for your ball python to climb on, because I've noticed a lot of them do love to climb. I need to make a video on this soon because a lot of them are being studied and they're coming to the conclusion that ball pythons are actually a little semi-arboreal. So it's good to give them climbing features like that, and that's fantastic. Then I really don't know if I have anything to add. It looks like you have all the hides and different foliage. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe just, I'm going to say this for everyone. Just leaf litter. Just add that to the top. Maybe some different, I think a cork book, blah, blah, blah. Maybe a cork bark round would be also great for this. It's just another area for your ball python to climb on and possibly hide in, and it just brings another texture to this environment. But other than that, this is so stunning. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have Jonathan _WPG. And this is an enclosure for a leopard gecko who is winking and is so adorable. So this enclosure is, I'm not sure what size this is, but it looks like it has a very naturalistic substrate. It might even be bioactive. So it does look like it's a little bit smaller, but he did also say that he will be upgrading soon. So the more floor space that you can give your leopard gecko, the better. Another thing that I would recommend is it does seem like you have a lot of different things on the ground in this enclosure, which is fantastic. It's good to give them a lot of different climbing features because leopard geckos love to climb. They will utilize anything that they can climb on, so it's great to give them a lot of climbing opportunity. But other than that, your decor and hiding places and the plants, everything looks fantastic and very naturalistic. So other than that, it looks like you're doing a fantastic job. So just basically do what you're doing, and the same thing when you upgrade to the larger enclosure for your leopard gecko. Next up, we have Leland _Brandlin. So this is for a Kenyan sand boa. I'm not sure what size enclosure this is, but I do know that sand boas do not get that large, and you possibly have a baby in here. I would consider possibly upgrading in the future if you can, just to give it a little bit more space, even though I know these snakes are not that active. But I think it's good to just give them the opportunity, especially when they do get a little bit bigger and thicker. But for now, this looks fantastic. I like that you're using cork bark because they can actually burrow underneath of that and hide. And then I see that there are 2 black hides in the back. And then there's also a water bowl. I would possibly put just a little bit more foliage just as my own personal preference because I just like decorating enclosures and making them look naturalistic. Sand boas don't really utilize a lot of things, and I know that because they just love to burrow. So you're doing an absolutely fantastic job with this setup. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have spoiled creatures. And oh my god, I want to move into this enclosure. It is so stunning. So this is for a Brazilian rainbow boa, and it's just a baby. This is a 4x2x2 enclosure from Zen Habitats. It is so perfect for Brazilian rainbow boas. And what's really cool about this is when your snake does get bigger, with this enclosure, you have the option of using an extension kit in the future, which is what I plan to do with Bowie. I want to get an enclosure exactly like this one and then attach another one next to it and have an 8-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot enclosure. It's just, that's like the ultimate enclosure for Brazilian rainbow boas. But taking a look at this, like, the naturalistic background just makes me want to get the enclosure so bad and start on it for Bowie because this is so beautiful. Look at all of the enrichment that it just brings, just having a naturalistic background like that. There's live plants planted in it. There's a lot of different naturalistic hides and moss, perfect substrate, live plants. It is just fantastic. And then I love the large pieces of wood that you have for your boa to climb on because especially as babies, they love to climb and they are a semi-arboreal species. So that's a great thing to add and just give to them for extra enrichment. So this is absolutely so beautiful. I could stare at this all day. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have Creature Exotics, and this is a bioactive Mourning gecko vivarium. It's a 12x12x18 with plant, light, and UVB, springtails, and dwarf white tropical isopods. Oh my goodness. I love these tropical looking bioactive enclosures so much. I could just stare at them all day. I want to move in. Like, it just looks like a little paradise. the three-dimensional naturalistic background with moss growing out of it. There's some pothos, there's a snake plant, there's some other plants going on. It is so, so stunning. I'm in love with this. I'm not too familiar with mourning geckos, so I'm not really familiar with their care or if they really do like to climb. I would possibly add maybe some vines to this enclosure that are horizontal for maybe some horizontal climbing space. But that would be my only recommendation because like this is completely decked out and stunning. So you may not even need to add that, but thank you so much for sharing it because it's just like so beautiful for me to just look at. Next up we have Misha's Mini Zoo, and we are looking at a leopard gecko enclosure. So this is a 20-gallon tank for a leopard gecko who has metabolic bone disease. So I think because of that, she's keeping this one in a smaller enclosure. I would possibly upgrade in the future, especially if your gecko does start to feel better and is getting stronger and can do more climbing. It would be a great thing to add for enrichment to just have more climbing features and just more space. But it looks like you have, I'm assuming, yeah, there's actually multiple hides. There's like a pumpkin hide, there is like a little tunnel to hide in, and then there's like a naturalistic looking rock. So this is beautiful. I think it looks fantastic. My recommendation would be also to possibly add a substrate. Some people don't really like doing that with leopard geckos. I've noticed with mine that it really helps his feet. It actually helps a lot with their shedding, getting all of that shed off of their toes when there's a substrate. It helps significantly, so that would be another thing that I would recommend. It also just brings a little bit more of a naturalistic environment for your animal, which is ideal. So that would probably be my only other recommendation. I hope that your leopard gecko feels better, and thank you so much for sharing this setup. Next up, we have Obi-Wan Shinobi, and this is a ball python enclosure. So this is a ball python enclosure for Kyber. He said that he based it mostly off of my enclosure. It's bioactive, and it has one fake pothos vine across the back and side wall. Since it's winter, I have a heat pad on the right and a heat emitter on the left. It's so rough. Being a reptile keeper in the winter is like, it's a hard time, but it's great to see that you're putting the effort in and really measuring your temperatures and making sure that you're doing everything correctly. And this setup is stunning. So this is a 4x2x16 Zen Habitats PVC enclosure. These are probably my favorite for ball pythons. The 4x2x2 is also fantastic for them, but the 4 foot by 2 foot space is just so ideal for ball pythons, and I think that that is like the best minimum to have for them. But looking at this setup, it looks like you have really decked it out. There's so much different enrichment. You have live plants, fake plants. I see a lot of different types of woods and cork bark and moss, large water bowl, climbing features. Like, this is beautiful. You have done such an amazing job. Thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have Nellie, and this is a chameleon enclosure. She said that she was cleaning up the enclosure, so the lights are not on in the photo, but they are there. I can see that she does have the proper UVB, which is fantastic. This enclosure looks pretty decked out with a lot of different things to climb on, and a live plant, and then some fake plants on the side, and that chameleon is stunning. So when looking at this enclosure, it's kind of hard to tell, like looking at photos, to see like how big something is. It does seem like it's a little bit small. It might be the 4 foot enclosure. You want to make sure that you have a 2x2x4 minimum for a veiled chameleon. That might be what this is. Sometimes it's just hard to tell in photos. But other than that, it looks like there's just so many different things to climb on. I would possibly, I see that you have a pothos in here already. I think that it would be a great idea to have even more pothos, maybe from the top hanging down. I think that that would also just help fill it out a little bit more and just give a little bit more opportunity for your chameleon to hydrate itself as well. But other than that, this is already just looking so great, and you've really done a good job filling it out. So this is definitely looking good. So thank you so much for sharing this. Next up, we have Ryan's Reptiles 13, and we are looking at another Kenyan sand boa enclosure. So we're looking at tons of sand boa enclosures today. Also, he mentioned that he gets fed in a separate container, so that way impaction is never an issue. Great idea and fantastic thinking. So this enclosure is so stunning. It looks like there's a large water bowl. Looks very naturalistic, some live plants, and then just tons of sand. I think the only thing I would add to this would be possibly a naturalistic background. I think that would just make it look so beautiful, but that would really be my only recommendation. This looks really, really good, so thank you so much for sharing it. Next up, we have Won't Feel Blue. This is another 4x2x2 ball python enclosure for Spyro. And Spyro is so stunning. I am in love with the photo that she sent of him just curled up in a little ball. And it's also at the top too, and then there's like live plants coming out. It is so stunning. I love this enclosure. It's very, very spacious for a ball python. There's a lot of different types of plants and different hides, a large water bowl. This just looks beautiful. It looks like a little ball python paradise, and I just love when you guys share setups like this because it gives so much inspiration for other people keeping these animals. So thank you so much for sharing this. Okay, next up we have Weird and Wild Ones. I love this name on Instagram. That's so cool. So we are looking at an enclosure that I believe is for a veiled chameleon on the top. I'm not sure what the animal is on the bottom. But the one on the top looks very spacious. I'm not sure what size. Actually, I can see that it's a Zen habitat enclosure, so I'm going to assume that this is the 4x2x4, which is actually massive. Like, that is a huge setup and so perfect for a veiled chameleon. You've done a naturalistic 3-dimensional background with live plants coming literally everywhere and different climbing features. This is like a very, very ideal setup for a veiled chameleon. You've done such a beautiful job. My only recommendation for this would be to possibly mount your UVB on the inside of the screen, because the Zen Habitat screens do filter out 30% of the UVB. So you just want to make sure that it's still getting the proper Ferguson zone and all the UVB that your animal needs. But that would literally be my only recommendation, because this is just so spot on and so stunning. So thank you so much for sharing it. And that completes all of the enclosure submissions for today. So thank you guys so much for sharing all of your beautiful setups. I really love seeing all of them, and it really does give a lot of inspiration for other keepers as well. So it's great to just keep doing these videos and seeing all of them for other people to be helped out as well. So thank you so much, and thank you to you guys for watching this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Again, I will do submissions on the 12th of every month, so just pay attention to my stories on the 12th on Instagram. So yeah, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.